What's up, fam? We are live. All right, back at it again with Triple B's Boys Bet Ball episode 3. Coming back from Mexico City, gotta practicando mi español. No, my Spanish sucks still, but I'm learning a little bit more. But I am finally back. I am back in the good state of Texas and the great country of the US of A. And we're going to go into a couple topics that if we have any foreign listeners, they might not be so happy about it, especially because the pennant is coming back home to the United States. But we'll get into all that. We have a lot of big topics coming up for this show, reviewing the last week, as well as a lot of stuff to look forward to. The end of the MLB season has come, and a champion has been declared. So, Spencer, unless you have anything, I think we could probably go on to the biggest topic we have here and the one that you're probably the most excited about.
Yeah, no, let's jump into it.
Cool. Well, the Dodgers win Game 7 at the Rogers Center in Toronto, packed with Blue Jays fans. Literally, the Blue Jays have everything go wrong, and they end up losing Game 7 to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Dodgers become back-to-back champs. They're the first back-to-back champs, and since I can't remember what, the Red Sox?
No, Yankees, 98, 99, 2000, three-peat.
20-plus years, but the Dodgers are champions once again. And it's 3 championships in the past, 5 years, 6 years?
3 in the last 5. I mean, people want to discredit the bubble ring, but everyone chose to play. If somebody else won it, they probably wouldn't say anything, but just because it's LA, they want to discredit it.
Yeah, but that Game 7, people are calling it like the greatest Game 7 of all time. I honestly haven't been a baseball fan for a long time. I've grown up, with basketball and, of course, with football a little bit more. But basketball is my main sport. But a lot of people are saying this is the best Game 7 of all time. I unfortunately didn't get to watch the game live because I was actually in Mexico City for the NBA Mexico City game, Mavs versus Pistons. But there was this guy who's a Blue Jays fan up in a couple rows behind us, and he was like yelling, "Yeah, let's go Blue Jays!" during the whole game. Literally right before Will Smith hits that leadoff homer to put the Dodgers up 5-4 in the 11th inning, and he's really quiet after that. But what do you think, Spencer? Greatest Game 7 ever?
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely top 5, top 3 best games I've ever watched in terms of the stakes involved. Dodgers trying to go back to back. I know I saw some people saying the closest game that can compare in recent memory was 2016, Game 7, Chicago Cubs versus the Cleveland Indians. Back then, I think they were still the Cleveland Indians. They had rebranded to the Guardians. I think we were both on our missions back then, so we didn't see that game. But Chicago hadn't won a championship in over 100 years, and I think Cleveland might have won the second, if not pretty close to the longest drought in terms of World Series history. I'd seen the highlights of that game. I think the first batter in Game 7 went yard, and it just went back and forth, including a rain delay, with the Cubs ultimately coming out on top 8-7. So I didn't see that game. You didn't see that game, but I was very concerned the fact that we even got to a Game 7. If you think about Game 6, we're up 3-1 in the 9th inning. Guy gets on base, and then they hit a double, second and third, no outs. Have to bring in Glass now, and then in a matter of, I think, 3 pitches, we get out of the game with the first pitch pop up for 1 out, and then the incredible double play at second to take us to a Game 7. So, yeah, absolutely wild.
Yeah, and man, big man Dave, honestly, I think he made one of the biggest moves that not only got them to a game 7, but won them the World Series by putting Miguel Rojas in. And then, of course, putting, I forget what inning it was, but Andy Pajes back through the game and him making that huge catch. What was it? Two outs. Forget which inning it was.
Ninth.
Yeah. In the bottom of the ninth to send into extra innings, where he literally ran over Kike Hernandez. They tell me Kike's still on the ground, but what a catch.
Yeah, I mean, people want to discredit Dave Roberts, say that, he's just a puppet, and like the front office of LA, Andrew Friedman, are pulling the strings, but to be able to just pull off those moves in the same inning and then paying off back to back because bases loaded, 1 out, you basically move the entire infield in. Hit it to Miguel Rojas, which subbed out. He played that whole game at second base. And then baseball's a game of inches. That was a perfect representation of that. Will Smith's heel came up, but then it dropped down right before Isaiah Kiner-Falefa slid into home. People are saying they've looked at the play again and said, why did he have such a short lead and secondary lead to begin with? He's gone back and explained that the third base coach told him to not take a huge lead just because they feared of him getting either picked off or if it was going to be a line drive because the infield was playing so in, he could possibly getting doubled off. But so, yeah, he was following his base coach's instructions, but you still got to be like, I don't know, man, it's a World Series. Take a bigger lead or slide head first or even just run through the base, because people say home plate is the hardest base to slide into because it's flat as opposed to other bases that have volume that you can just hit with your cleat. You actually have to get your foot down. Will Smith experienced that. But yeah, I mean, that ninth inning, well, the eighth inning, even Max Muncy, we're down 2. He hits a home run off just Savage, cuts it to 1. Then we go into the ninth, still down 1. I forget who our 8th batter was at the time. Maybe Kike strikes out or gets out, and then we're down to our 9-hole. Miguel Rojas hasn't played in consistently since the season ended. I'm like, okay, he'll probably get out, and then it'll be down to Shohei to do something. Maybe nervous, but he worked a full count, and he didn't just barely get over the fence. He cranked it over left field. So that puts you into moments we were talking about Miguel Rojas throwing the guy out at home, and then Edman has had a bad ankle the whole postseason. So trying to catch that ball. I think if Edman was in, Kike, I feel like probably wouldn't have caught that ball, and Edman wouldn't have made it there. So they're saying Pajes mossed Kike, and that got the job done.
You got to do what you got to do. But that ninth inning was insane, based off of what I saw. But the fact that they gave the MVP, to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, what do you think about that? Do you think he's deserving of MVP? I mean, that man stays ready.
Yeah, I mean, I thought if we were going to win a game 7, even if he didn't pitch, I probably would have given it to him, unless we had an absolutely incredible performance like Shohei had in the NLCS Game 4, where he hit 3 home runs and struck out 10 batters. I mean, if he performed that, you'd be hard pressed to not pick him, especially because he's the face of MLB. But he didn't have a great outing on the mound. Got yanked after that, giving up that 3-run home run to Bo Bichette. But yeah, 0 days rest after not just throwing he only threw 6 innings, but 96 pitches. And then in game 2, his last start, going complete game, 118 pitches? I mean, when he was playing in Japan, I think Japan typically pitchers in the MLB pitch every 5 games. In Japan, they pitch every 6 games just to preserve them. But like Dave Roberts said, Yamamoto's the GOAT. And it took everything to go our way, but 2-time champs, and we want more.
Yeah, man. Yamamoto was insane. Literally, what was a 1 out, bases loaded. He comes in the game, closes it out. Obviously, he had some help from his teammates in the field. But yeah, like Shohei was amazing in the NLCS. But yeah, if you had to give it to any player on the Dodgers this run, you'd have to give it to Yamamoto. And I'm actually sick, or it's sick that I actually got to see him last season or was it this season? It might have been this season. I can't remember. Either this season or last season, he was going through rehab. So from an injury, and he pitched for the OKC Blue, which is their AAA team. And they were out here I'm in the Austin, Texas area, and I saw the Round Rock Express play against them, and he was starting. So I got to see him in person, which was pretty cool. So yeah, I got to see, obviously not like in the World Series in an actual like MLB game, but I got to see a World Series MVP in the flesh, which is pretty sick to say.
Yeah, I mean, easily top 5 pitcher in baseball right now, and that performance. I mean, I'm a homer, but I would say it beats Madison Bumgarner, what he did when the Giants won, coming in and relieving a couple innings. Just those stakes and pitching on no days rest was just incredible.
Yeah, I guess it's too early to talk about next season, but I know there's lots of talks of additions the Dodgers could possibly make to defend and possibly make a three-peat. So I've heard of Kyle Tucker. There's a couple other Japanese players as well. Imanaga is now a free agent, wanting to go into free agency. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting moves being played. Bregman, he's not re-signing with the Red Sox, I believe, so he becomes a free agent. Yeah, what do the Dodgers have to do to possibly repeat, or I guess three-peat?
Yeah, I mean, I think in both seasons that we've won, our weakness has been pretty apparent. In our first championship, our bullpen was incredible, and we would piece together every 3 games a bullpen game. And if everyone didn't do their part, it would kind of just fall apart, and we would kind of punt on that game. But we had Yamamoto, of course, Flaherty, and Walker Buehler. And yeah, Walker Buehler will go down as a legend for Dodgers. I still hold him in high esteem, but we saw how he performed this year with the Red Sox. He performed so bad that they eventually just cut him. And he signed with the Phillies, but didn't really do anything once he was signed with the Phillies. And then this season, we got Blake Snell. Shohei was pitching. Yamamoto was healthy. Glasnow was healthy. So we had 4 dogs, but then absolutely no bullpen. So I think, yeah, they're talking about going to go get a real closer, a shutdown closer. We thought we had that with Tanner Scott. Maybe he's able to fight those demons and get back to the pitcher he was a year ago. But that's left to be seen. So I think bullpen arms are definitely a priority. And then, yeah, we're just fortunately, we're the Dodgers. So we signed Michael Conforto this season, hoping he'd be a good left-handed bat. He hit below the Mendoza line 200% and didn't play a single game in the playoffs. So I think, Kyle Tucker for the right price is definitely in play.
Yeah. So, I mean, based off their lineup so far, I think I agree. If they kind of clean up that bullpen a little bit, they have the aces to make another run. But
yeah,
it's all about
forget that, top to bottom, we're just a world-class organization. I think we have like the best pitching and our best prospects overall in baseball. So I'd like to see us give some of those prospects a chance, because we're seeing, I would say in all sports, I was talking with my dad and he was saying it's more basketball and maybe a little bit of football, but I feel like youth is just taking over pro sports. So I was concerned, especially during Game 7. I was saying, yeah, our team is old. When we made other runs, we had like a young Cody Bellinger, a young Corey Seager. So I'm super down to, during the season, calling up the prospects and seeing if they can contribute.
Yeah, I know, especially at their pay salary, like if you can get some benefit out of it. No matter what the sport is, I think what usually happens is you have like one or two like younger stars coming up that don't eat a ton to the salary cap, and then you have or maybe rising stars is the better term for them. And then you have one or two like main stars. Obviously for baseball, you're going to need a little bit more than say a basketball team. And then you surround the team with veterans and role players. And I think the Dodgers, you kind of saw them. You have their big stars, and I don't even know like how well Mookie played. I think he played fine, nothing out of the ordinary or too crazy. But you have Shohei Ohtani, you had Freddie Freeman, and then you have a lot of the role player guys, which obviously a lot of them make pretty good money being on the Dodgers, but they play good complementary pieces, and I think that's what you need for a championship team. You can't have too many stars, but you have to have enough guys that play their role.
Most definitely. Well, people are calling for a salary cap. I keep seeing other people making videos for a salary floor, and I'm of the same mindset. I know LA is a big market, probably the biggest market, but teams like Pittsburgh, teams like Miami, Pittsburgh has a generational pitcher in Paul Skeens, and everyone is always talking about when are they going to trade him. It's like, why don't you try to build a team around him? Same thing with like Mike Trout. The Angels are in a big market. They're not the Dodgers. They're kind of the Clippers comparison to the Lakers, but they've spent money. I just don't think they have the baseball brains in there, because when they spend money, like on Anthony Rendon, who has played maybe a full season out of his like 6 or 7 year contract, just getting the right guys. Like Max Muncy, people want to kill us for that one, but he was almost out of the league when we signed him, and now he's the all-time leader in home runs in Dodger postseason history. So having your scouting department, your baseball guys in the office, you can see that it definitely pays off.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be in favor of maybe a salary floor, maybe not a salary cap, because that's something that's unique about baseball. Yeah, and honestly, these other teams, I don't know necessarily who the owners are, but they don't want to spend money, and I don't even know if they're honestly. If you own a sports team, I would say most sports teams don't even make money. So I don't get the reason why of like owning a sports team if you're not making that much money, just to like not spend that much and to win, So I would be in favor of maybe a salary floor, because at the end of the day, like you want your fans, because your fans are going to drive like even the deal that they made with Ohtani was like $700 million. Of course, it was a weirdly constructed deal, but deferred, but still it's a $700 million contract, almost $1 billion. And they made that back in 1 year because they won.
The Shohei Ohtani effect.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think if you make investments like that, it's a win-win. You win, and then you also make money. You can clearly see that with like the Celtics,
No, people love a winner. And I mean, I went to a World Series game this year, and parking was $80. But people will gladly pay that, and they'll pay the $10 for a Dodger dog and the $15 to $20 for a beer, because they want to be a part of greatness. So,
all right, let's go ahead and switch gears. Let's go to the NFL next. We had the NFL trade deadline come up, and there's been a good amount of notable trades. I don't think anything. I mean, there was like one or two big blockbuster trades that no one really saw coming, but other than that, not anything too crazy, I would say. So I'm actually pulling up the list of all the trades that have been made.
Yeah, I think both of our teams were involved in some trades.
Yeah, so I guess we can start off with the blockbuster trade of the deadline being Sauce Gardner from the Jets being traded to the Colts for 2 first-round picks, I believe.
Yeah, and
First-round picks and A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver, Texas
from
alum.
Texas.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, honestly, like it's interesting seeing all these posts from these different news sports media sites, like rating these trades. I think it's really hard to rate a trade at the very beginning because you never know, like, of course, like when picks are involved, who's going to be the picks and stuff like that. I guess the only trade you could probably rate, and it being an F, was the Luka trade, but obviously I'm biased on that. But yeah, the Jets trade their all-pro corner, Sauce Gardner, to the Colts, who are having a crazy season. So Colts are having an amazing season. Jets are having, honestly, one of their almost routine, forgettable seasons, I'd say, nowadays. And they get two picks. We'll see kind of how good they are. I don't have right here what years they are, but and again, something interesting in receiver A.D. Mitchell. You know, he's a deep threat. He had a couple flashes with the Colts over the past season and a half, but nothing.
Yeah, I think his most famous play is dropping the ball right before he went into the end zone this season.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but he's a deep threat. He's a guy that has some wheels on him. I wouldn't necessarily. I would say Xavier Worthy. They played together, and Worthy is better than him. But yeah, I think he has potential. But I mean, honestly, the Jets just need to have a guy who can like actually throw people the ball. That's another issue. So hopefully these picks, maybe help them coming around. But the Colts, I mean, they're kind of solidifying their win now. Obviously, 2 first-round picks is, you might say, kind of hefty. I mean, Sauce Gardner is a great piece to solidify your defense. And I mean, from what I've seen for the Colts, as far as the cornerback position, they're kind of light. I believe they have who's their current corner? I think he's hurt at the moment. I can't remember, but they had one solid corner, but I think he got hurt. So they've been playing some young guys. So that kind of solidifies their secondary a little bit. And their offense is great. I'd say their defensive line is pretty good. So I think they could definitely make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, 2 picks and a solid 2, maybe 3 wide receiver. I feel like it's a decent haul for Sauce Gardner. At the same time, I mean, I know it probably maybe is too soon for you, the Micah trade. You just look at it. I mean, might be, I wouldn't necessarily say worse, but the fact that, because it was still 2 picks for Micah, right? 2 picks and what's his face? The defensive tackle.
Yeah. Kenny Pickett.
What's his name? Kenny Clark. Yeah.
Kenny Clark. Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't know how good the Packers have been, and Packers maybe are a little bit of fraud alert or early exit from the playoffs. But the Colts are 7-2, 6-2.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, especially being in the division they are in, I think they're easily going to win, 10, 11, maybe even 12 games. So that pick's going to be low to mid 20s, even if they get knocked out early in the playoffs. And then next year, I don't imagine them having a big regression. I mean, we saw Washington, so you can never say never. So they're still first round picks. And I think it makes sense still for both sides, just because the Jets are nowhere close to being a competitive team. So might as well just trade your best players at the peak of the market. But it'll be interesting. I still haven't bought in on the Colts. We saw last year the Vikings with Sam Darnold. Looks like Sam Darnold is a good quarterback, but when the rubber meets the road with these quarterbacks who are kind of fringy, I don't know how they perform. I mean, we saw the last 2 games against Detroit and the Rams. Sam Darnold looked like New York Jets Sam Darnold. So still left to be seen, but I like it for the Colts, kind of pushing their chips into the middle of the table and saying, hey, let's see what we got this year.
Yeah, I like the move, especially the Colts have just, they've kind of found a diamond in the rough in a sense, and signing Danny Dimes and maybe it's just the New York curse, but from New York, who looked terrible to the point where he was literally cut from the team with a crazy contract. And they thought they had their guy in Anthony Richardson, but that guy's crazy. Probably has CTE now, just because he takes so many hits and ends up hurting himself at the very beginning of the season. So they have a ways to go, I think, to kind of prove themselves, especially in the playoffs. Because you see a lot of these quarterbacks. Dak's a prime example, amazing in the regular season, but when it comes to the bright lights and when winning matters most, they just don't deliver. But it'll be interesting. Yeah, Packers are an interesting case. I just kind of was perusing, especially with the trade that the Cowboys made, was Mozzie Smith, a first-round pick, and I believe a pick swap. And that first-round pick, I believe, is one they got from the Packers for All-Pro defensive tackle Quinnen Williams, the sneeze, bless you, thank you guy. That's how I think how most people know him. But he's not performing as well as he has in past seasons. I think this is his 6th or 7th year in the league. It's interesting because the Cowboys honestly have the second worst defense in the league, and they have a terrible run defense. Then you just saw that kind of in the Arizona game. They had kind of no-name nobodies, DeMarcado and Knight kind of running all over them. They're literally 4th and 5th string running backs. But I think it's a decent pickup for the Cowboys. They definitely had to do something. So if you kind of look at the totality of things, they basically traded Parsons for so they basically traded Parsons and turned him into 2 defensive tackles and Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams and a first-round pick. I don't know.
So I'll ask you, would you have paid Micah, seeing what it ultimately turned out to be?
This $70 million over 3 years, $47 million a year is, I think, ridiculous for any player, especially Micah, who, he's when healthy, he is the best defensive player of the league. But that's the case. You can kind of make a similar case to maybe he's not to the point where he's Anthony Davis, but he's always has something, and it's football. It's a rough sport. People get hurt. So it's hard to spend that much money on a guy, but I also understand what Green Bay is trying to do. They're trying to go all in right now to win. And sometimes you kind of have to do stuff like that. Sometimes it works. I think more times than not, it doesn't. And then they kind of look back and I don't know if that was the right move. And now you have this guy on a contract, and who knows, they might end up, I don't know, but he could be really good for them as well. And so, but I would not have personally paid him that much money as far as what the Packers are paying him. So Dallas essentially saves, it says here, $70 million over the 3 years compared to giving Micah that money. So, and they can use that money to sign someone else potentially in free agency, because honestly this year the writing's kind of on the wall. They'll be lucky to even get close to making the playoffs, honestly. But NFC East looks pretty bad right now, so they could still potentially sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to run away with it, but I think, similar to the Jets, just a move that not necessarily for this year. You ask yourself, could you find a better defensive tackle than Quinn Williams with that first round pick from Green Bay? Probably not. And Quinn Williams, I think he was drafted, yeah, like you said, I don't know about 7, but maybe like 5 to 6 years ago. So he's still young, still has juice in the tank, and I think he grades as one of the best defensive tackles against the run, which you said is the kind of Achilles heel of the Cowboys. So yeah, I think it was a good move. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I know our teams play each other in a week or so.
We'll be there. All right, a couple other just like not super big moves, but you have some contenders making some moves. You have safety Kyle Duggar to the Steelers from the Patriots, and then you also have the Eagles get another pass rusher and Jalen Phillips to add to their pass rush, which I haven't looked at the stats, but I'd say their pass rush I don't think is honestly doing that well based off of the names that they have. And then you have a cornerback. The Jets actually acquired a cornerback, I guess, to kind of cover for Trayvon Gardner and Jasir Taylor. I've never heard of him. And then also other trades. These were kind of earlier on in the season, so I won't really mention them. But those the ones we talked about, like Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner were probably the biggest ones. So I guess if I had to rate those two picks, I think the Jets Colts was kind of like a win-win. You could say the Colts got fleeced in a sense because 2 first-round picks and a player who possibly has potential is a steep price to pay for. I mean, Sauce Gardner's good. I wouldn't say he's good as like say a Pat Surtain, but he's top in the league. He's top 5 cornerback, I would say. So I think it's a win-win situation if I had to grade it. And then the Cowboys, like you said, for what they had to offer, Quinnen Williams is probably one of the best option they could get at a defensive tackle to kind of round out their defense and stop the bleeding on the defensive end for the Cowboys. So, and then you kind of look at the totality of the Micah trade, trading one player and essentially turning into 2 defensive tackles, a pick, and then salary flexibility to possibly sign some more pieces in the offseason. Because, I mean, you can obviously see that their offense is top in the league and doing pretty well. Obviously not so great in this past game against Arizona, but their defense is the one that needs work. And honestly, I mean, you could say it's the players, but I personally think it's just the coaching. You saw what Dan Quinn was able to do with that defense, and as soon as he left, you had a lot of the same players. You might have had a player or 2 here leave, but that defense looks totally different. It ends up being from one of the best defenses in the league to one of the worst defenses in the league. So I honestly think it's more the coaching than the players. All right. So let's go ahead and shift topics. I guess we'll talk. Did you have any bets this past week in the NFL? I know I bet a little bit on the Monday Night Football game because that was the only game I was able to watch since I was in Mexico. I only placed 2 bets. Once we hit Vegas, and probably this week leading up to Vegas, I'm going to ramp it up a little bit, fund the accounts a little bit more probably. But I had 1 bet or 2 bets in the Arizona Dallas game. One was the first half under, was at 26.5. I felt like maybe this isn't the best way to bet it, but I was just looking at like numbers, and obviously Dallas usually has pretty good starts to the game. There's one guy said he's like 24.5. That's a really key number for the first half on points. Because essentially you have to have 4 touchdowns in order for them to exceed that 24.5 number, 4 scores. And based off of what I saw, Jacoby Brissett was starting again. Kyler Murray's still out. Arizona hasn't really been able to get anything going as far as passing game other than McBride, as well as Marvin Harrison kind of been struggling a little bit. Their run game has been struggling a lot with a lot of their running back injuries. And I'd say Arizona has a not a great defense, but they're kind of like a bend not break defense. And as well as the Cowboys, I know they can score a lot of points, but I figured their defense would get a little bit better. They always play a little bit better at home. So I took that bet. It cashed barely. I sweated it a little bit. It was looking real good at the end of the first quarter. I believe it was 3-0 to Arizona. So I was sitting really pretty with it. Then there was a blocked punt, defensive score for the Cowboys, RIP Nealand, who recently passed away today or last night. So that kind of made things a little bit tight, and Arizona had a couple scores, and I had to sweat it out a bit with Brandon Aubrey, who's butter. He's automatic, but it was a 68-yard field goal, which we saw Cam Little on Sunday break the NFL record. So he was there to tie it, and he was just right, a little bit wide right, and that they saved my bet. So I got that at plus 100 odds. And then another one was a kind of fun parlay. I believe it was Spencer cooked it up a little bit for us. It was the Cardinals plus 7.5. And mine was a 5-legger. I think yours was a 4-legger. It was Cardinals plus 7.5, over 48.5 total. Trey McBride, anytime touchdown. Trey McBride over 6.5 receptions. And what else was there? What was the
Trey McBride touchdown?
Yeah.
I think the only other thing was over 49.5, and that didn't hit.
Yeah. Oh, and then Dak over 224.5 passing yards. That's what it was. Which I like that play. It honestly probably, or at least Spencer should have hit. I was pretty certain that Trey McBride was going to get a ton of targets, which he did. He got 9 targets, but he was only at a haul-in. Was it 5 or 6 receptions? No, 5 receptions, so he was too shy. But he did have that anytime touchdown. So I lost on that one, but I broke even for the day. So you can't complain about that.
Yeah, I mean, I had that one on Monday night. I had this teased. I think all the mornings late games. Sometimes I just like to mess around and just tease the spread slightly and just see if I can hit. And yeah, of late I've just been missing. They call me Mr. One Leg because I'm always missing my parlays by one leg. And I think of the 8 games that we're playing, I got all 7 right except Detroit. I had them. I teased. I think the spread was 9.5. Teased it down to 6.5, and they ended up not even winning. So that was a big letdown, especially against Minnesota with JJ McCarthy. I think his first game back. I think it was in Detroit too, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of just a huge letdown. But yeah, it was in Detroit. But yeah, tonight my team's playing. Their season's not going as expected. The line that interests me the most, I guess, is the over/under on ESPN. Is currently 42.5. I don't know if I want to. That's a tricky line, but if I had to pick, I was seeing the Raiders total points at I think 16.5. If you can see it anywhere, if you can see a 17.5, I would grab the under because I think the max we're going to score is 17 points tonight. Denver's defense is incredible. We're in Denver, so the altitude and just the atmosphere. So with that in mind, and then saying the over, you would think I would say, yeah, just take the. Yeah, I guess it doesn't completely make sense, but Denver, sometimes they look incredible, sometimes they look like crap. So they could win, but it could be tight. So I would say my best play would be to take the Raiders if you can find it under 17.5.
Yeah, I see most of at least the apps I use. Obviously, I'm in Texas, so I can't use a lot of the normal sports books. The main ones I use are like Novig, ProfitX, Fliff, a couple other ones. Lines I'm seeing, 17.5. There's one on ProfitX, but you got to eat the juice. It's minus 148. And then the next best one is 16.5 with Novig at minus 107. So, I would agree with Spencer. I think that's probably one of the moves, if not the under. I haven't watched a ton of Raiders games, so I know at times the Raiders can have flashes of decent defense, but I'd say the Raiders' offense is just so bad that I think a lot more times than not, it just puts their defense at a disadvantage for being on the field so long. So, I would lean under on the total, as well as team total under for the Raiders, just because Denver has a dominant defense. They always do. All their games are always lower scoring, and it's going to be in Denver.
I will say our crux is always that dreaded 20, 21 point mark. And last game, with the return of Brock Bowers, we put up 29. Granted, we needed overtime, but even without overtime, we got to 23. So I know the Jags defense is nowhere close to the Broncos defense, but it's a division game, and we might get up for it. So, but I'd still, if you can find 17.5 and not have to eat such minus 148, even if you do it live, I would say grab it.
Yeah, it's going to be a bruiser in Denver tonight. Let's look at a couple of the other games. I'm just looking at the game list this upcoming Sunday. You have another. Dude, there's so many international games at this point. Falcons and Colts in Germany. I'm looking at what games look interesting.
The battle of mid, or the battle of the number one overall pick, Browns Jets in MetLife.
Yeah, Browns Jets. I guess you could also say Rams 49ers. That I think. Oh, and Steelers Chargers. Honestly, for Sunday Night Football, and I mean Monday Night Football is great too. You have Eagles and
for me. Easily the game of the week is Patriots at Buccaneers, the Tom Brady game. Some people may call it. The 7-2 Patriots visiting the 6-2 Buccaneers. That's going to be an interesting game.
Not going to lie, I feel like the Bucs. I think did they have a bye week last week? I feel like they've been pretty quiet. They had a great start to the season. They dropped a couple close games, but they were just riddled with injuries on both offense and defense. So. And the Patriots have come out super surprised the league. Drake May looking like a top 10 quarterback in the league right now. Patriots, the offense is kind of driving them, which in years past, it's always been their defense. But, they always have a solid defense, so you can count on that. But their offense is finally clicking. I was really surprised the Patriots didn't make a move for someone at the deadline, because I know they're young, especially with Drake May, but it'd be nice to see them make a move here or there, especially unless they really trust. I still think they should have traded Ramondre Stevenson. He's just fumbled the ball so many times, and I haven't watched a ton of Pats games, but I don't know if they're playing Travion Henderson more. I know Spencer really wanted them to give him the ball more because he was on he was on his fantasy team. But I was surprised they didn't make any moves to potentially make a run for the playoffs, especially in their division, which I believe they're leading right now.
Yeah, no, a lot of interesting games, and like I said, I would lean Buccaneers for that Patriots game, 2.5. I think they definitely were on a bye, because I had Emeka Buka and I didn't play him, so let be seen.
Yeah, so that's a game to watch out for. I would also we made a wager yesterday, and I gotta have Spencer hook me up with with Kalshi to get some future bets in. But the Chargers, I think they're my favorite to win their division. So I mean, you see the Chiefs losing last week to the Bills, and yeah, that's always been a battle for them. But I think the Chargers. I mean, they're at home, and Steelers are pretty good, but I think the coaching and Justin Herbert's having a really great year, and I think this is the year where he kind of gets over the hump, especially with the Chiefs not being as dominant as they once were. But they do have Rashee Rice back, and Mahomes has been feeding Rashee.
Yeah, like we said last week, the Chiefs, their next couple of games are kind of tough. They're on a bye this week, but then they got the Broncos and Colts, and after that, it's pretty smooth sailing. So you let me know the amount, and I will gladly take your money on the Chargers.
All right. Any other games you want to go over for this upcoming week?
No, I don't think so. I mean, other than the Rams 49ers, I remember that game particularly. It was a Thursday night game in LA. It went to overtime, and the Rams lost because they went for it on 4th and 1 instead of kicking a field goal, I believe, to tie the game. Just because the new overtime rules, each team gets a chance to possess the ball. Currently 4.5. I don't know if I would take 4.5, but maybe look at it live. I think the Rams will take revenge, and they will win that game.
Yeah, and honestly, if I were to make any bet in this game, it would be player prop Puka Nacua. And you know why? Because he just had a kid. And you know what you bet on when people just have kids? You bet on them, because I don't know what it is, the Fred VanVleet effect or whatever, but whenever a dude becomes a dad, especially a first-time dad, they just play their mind out of whatever game they're playing next. So that's what I would be looking at, or whatever Puka Nacua over.
Well, he left the game early last game, so he's questionable.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, if he plays, but just saying.
Yeah. Do you want to just wrap up by going over wins, losses, where we currently stand?
Did you want to do a quick college football playoff?
Yeah, we can finish with that
real quick.
Yeah, I mean once again, I think
it has changed, honestly. So let me just pull up the rankings.
I think once again we're the game of the week.
Yeah, and I actually have some friends going to that game. Obviously, everyone knows who I'm supporting this week. And I mean, what's the spread's 10.5? I would take that spread. And obviously this is a homer. And one thing I've learned over the past couple seasons with BYU, with under Sataki and this team, you can't bet against them. So if you're going to bet on this game, don't bet on Texas Tech. BYU's coming off of a bye. I know it's going to be in Lubbock. They're probably going to throw some tortillas somehow. And this is going to be the game of the week. College game days there. All the hype is on this game. I know Patrick Mahomes and I want to say Andy Reid are going to be at the game. They might even be on College game day. I'm not exactly sure, but I know they made a post about it. But can't sleep on BYU. So I'm going to put my money where I have put it the past couple weeks and bet it on BYU. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably put some, I don't know, it takes balls to bet, and we have the balls, so I might just put all of the money I'm going to bet on the money line. What I was thinking,
money line,
I was going to put like 75% of it on, or like 50% more like it on the spread, just because it's like I think that's an easy win. I think it might be a close game. I don't see it really being a blowout. I know a lot of Texas Tech games have been a blowout, but BYU always does their best to hang around. So 50% on the spread and probably 50% on money line, but who knows? I might just put it all on the money line.
Yeah, I mean, they continue to prove me wrong. The college football official rankings came out this week, and we weren't just 8 from the AP poll. We were number 7. So if this season ended today, we would host Notre Dame, kind of Temple Square versus the Vatican. But yeah, I think it's a big opportunity for the Cougs to prove, they're legit. And what do you think if we win, Mike? How far will we jump up? Top 5?
I think, top 5 for sure. Of course, it's all about. They don't have the. I don't know why it's not showing here. I'd say easily top 5. I wish I had the standings. So let me just pull this up real quick. But I'd say easily top 5. I mean, they're sitting at number 8 right now. Obviously, I would have to look at the schedule on who's playing, but I think if they win in Texas Tech or at Texas Tech in Lubbock with all those tortillas flying around, who knows? There might be a pocket knife or two in that in those tortillas that they throw. But I think they easily hop over all the 1-loss teams of the SEC. And they have to. Like the days of slandering other conferences that are not the SEC or the Big Ten, because those are so-called juggernaut conferences, and an undefeated team is not as good if it comes outside of that conference as, say, a 1 or 2 loss team. I think is absurd at this point, especially if BYU goes into Lubbock and beats Texas Tech. So I think they'll be 5, assuming A&M, Indiana, Ohio State all win out. I think they'll be sitting at number 4, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana plays at Penn State same time. I know Penn State has had kind of the year from hell, but they still are Penn State. You never know. You got Georgia at Mississippi State this week. The line's 9.5 within reach. I think the other game I saw was Texas A&M at Mizzou. And A&M's only favored by 6.5. And then even Oregon's at Iowa. So
that's going to be a tough game. That will be Oregon's going to need a statement win at Iowa. Iowa's never a good place or easy place to play. It's always low scoring. They like it. They like to play their defense. So Oregon's going to have to show out to really prove that they're a top team in the nation, because that loss to Indiana is pretty bad. But I will say after that, I don't even know if Oregon really plays anyone that's good. So they'll probably play Indiana again in the Big Ten championship. Oh, wait. Well, actually, I take that back. Indiana will probably play Ohio State at this point.
Yeah, so Sko Cougs.
Yeah. Plus 10.5 spread. Money line. Best line I'm seeing is like plus in the plus 300s. Plus 330.
And you might as well just tie it to Baron Bachmeier anytime touchdown, right?
Anytime touchdown. Yes, sir. All right. That's good for college football. College basketball started off. I'm not going to talk. We're not going to talk about it. We might have another show dedicated to it, especially since baseball's done. We can add college basketball into it. But a lot of good things. BYU having a great first game. There's some stuff they need to clean up, but they showed out in Vegas and took care of a pesky Villanova team who's always good every single year. And the freshmen this year, man, if you're an NBA team, you're definitely tanking this year. But we'll talk about the NBA now. We'll go review our wins and losses. Mavs are not looking good. I'll tell you that. They lost the Pelicans last night. That one was bad. I think if at any point this is rock bottom for the Mavs right now.
Yeah. So you say we're gonna go over, or we're wrapping up?
Yeah, we'll go over it and wrap up.
Cool. Do you have that, or?
I don't have it open right now. If you want me to, I can pull it up. But if not, if you could.
All right. I'm sharing it.
Yeah, I got it.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm happy as a hippo, as I said, from Along Came Polly. Got a 14 point lead on Mike. My losing teams are doing a great job at losing. And I guess the only big concern for me has been the Spurs, but the Lakers were able to eke out a win with just Reeves-less and, of course, LeBron-less Lakers squad. I'm just super happy with the Lakers. I know it's early, but the difference, you could even see it last year between JJ Redick and Darvin Pockets Hams, has been incredible. I was a big fan of the Jake LaRavia pick. People probably didn't even know who that guy was, but I looked into him, and yeah, he basically had very similar stats as Dorian Finney-Smith, except he's like 10 years younger. I think is bigger, and yeah, because he's younger, just more athletic. So he's been awesome. And yeah, even DeAndre Ayton in the preseason and in the first 1 or 2 games, I was like, wow, there's a reason why so many teams have given up on him. But he's been awesome. He's not going to be Anthony Davis, who we traded for Luka, but he rolls the rim. He's been trying on defense and just doing his job. So I've been super happy with that. I don't know if you have any comments on, other than, yeah, of course, the putrid Mavericks, about the teams you've picked so far.
Yeah, give me a second. My sound went out for some reason. So checking that out. No idea what happened. All right, let me just grab my AirPods real quick. Let's see if this will solve the issue. All right. No. Not good. All right. Let's see if I can change my settings. AirPods. All right, here we go. You hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Technical issues. Sorry, I totally missed what you said, but yeah, if you want to just do a quick 10-second recap.
Yeah, I was just saying, my losing teams have been doing their job losing. My Lakers, I know it's early, but have looked extremely well, extremely good. Like I said, I was a big fan of the Jake LaRavia pickup, kind of sneaky pickup once we picked him up. Kind of fills in the Dorian Finney-Smith role, and in my opinion, has been doing it a lot better just because he's 10 years younger, I think bigger, just more athletic. And DeAndre Ayton has just been, you can't ask for him to be the number one pick that he was drafted as because that's just not who he's going to be. He's not going to be Anthony Davis. But just been doing his role, setting good screens, rolling to the basket, and looking for the pass from Luka or Reeves and finishing. He has a pretty good touch around the rim. So I think last night he had like 25 and 10, or at least 20 and 10. So, and just JJ Redick as a whole has been a night and day difference. I know we had him last year as well, but you can see it even this year, just in terms of coaching compared to Darvin Ham. Just the strategy that they used last night to just get attack Wemby, because people are afraid that he's going to block the shot, but Marcus Smart just driving directly into him, getting him in foul trouble, eventually fouling him out. I'm very optimistic, and we're still missing LeBron.
Yeah, Lakers have looked really good. Like, if you look at the roster, other than obviously their stars, it's kind of, they're solid. They're good role players, but especially the games where you only have one of your stars. And I guess in this case, I'd probably say Austin Reeves is somewhat of a star for the Lakers right now. But even if one of them plays, they're still winning games, which is like all you can hope for as a fan. Like, obviously the Mavs are the complete opposite. I'm not even going to get into the Mavs. Like I said, I think they're kind of rock bottom right now after that loss to the 1-win Pelicans. But it's still early on in the season. Obviously, I think Spencer's picks, especially for the losses, have been great. Like, I thought the Nets would be obviously not like top in the West, but above the very bottom, which they are the very bottom. Of the East. And that was a really good pick for the losses. The Hornets had a kind of stronger start to the season. They had potential, but they haven't really been doing anything. And the Pelicans was another really, really good pick. And then Pacers have been I knew they were going to be bad, but I didn't know they were going to be this bad.
Yeah, fire sale. Trade Siakam while he still has value, or at least the highest value.
Yeah, and to be fair, they've just had so many injuries. Like, obviously they have the injury to Halliburton, but basically all of their starters have at one point had injury. So they're playing like their third and fourth string guys. So, the Mavs beat them if that shows anything like how bad the Pacers are playing. And the Grizzlies, they're always kind of sneaking into the playoffs. I know they're only a few years off from being number 2 or 3 in the West. But ever since they fired their head coach last year, it's kind of spiraled down. And who knows, they might even trade Ja. They suspended him for going against team conduct or something like that for a game. And I know there's teams calling the Grizzlies to seeing if he's available.
Yeah, looking at it, my only bad pick is the Bulls. Giddey has been good, but what's kind of my last pick? And hopefully they go back to being, the Bulls, the 42-40, 41-41 team that we all know and love.
Yeah, looking how bad the East is right now, the Bulls they could make the playoffs. I think they just have an interesting. They really don't have a star on their team, especially since they traded Levine. Josh Giddey, he looked pretty decent on the Thunder. I was a big Josh Giddey hater a year or two ago, but he's playing really well. And they have Buzelis, who's playing really good. They have a bunch of young guys, and it's an interesting combination of youth, because most of their good players are the young players with Kobe White, Ayu Dosunmu, Buzelis. But then they have Nikola Vucevic, who's one of their key contributors, their starting center. And is their coach still Billy Donovan?
For the Bulls, yeah.
Yeah. He's a good coach. So he coached at Florida in college and kind of had a rough start to coaching professionally, but he's kind of finding his way in the NBA, and especially with a really weak East, I'd say even more weak than usual. They can make a statement. But yeah, I really need, honestly, my only hope I think right now are the Spurs and the Thunder that are really propelling me forward. I think the Knicks need to. I guess I was hoping a little bit more of like Tibbs style, of course, with their new coach. It's going to be different from Tibbs because Tibbs was a big regular season guy. And the Jazz are kind of finally finding form to their normal Jazz self. Unfortunately, you had Walker Kessler go down with a season-ending injury and needing surgery. That's going to be he's not going to be playing anymore with the torn labrum. Never want to see injuries, but of course this does help my case a little bit for the Jazz losing games. And honestly, if I were the Jazz, I would continue to lose games to, seeing the freshmen that are coming up in college to get a top 2 pick, even a top 5 pick, a number 5 pick can be a franchise-changing player with this class of rookies coming in.
Yeah, like you said early in the season, but liking where I'm sitting so far.
Yeah, I'm still holding out for the Bucks. I know, like right now, it looks like a terrible pick, but the Bucks, man.
I mean, at least it was a late pick.
Yeah, the Bucks. I'm still thinking they're going to trade Giannis. But they're doing pretty well. I mean, he hit that game winner over the Pacers, but of course, like it is the Pacers. I don't want to say a lot of the Pacers. I wouldn't say a lot, but Pacers have had a lot of close games. All right, I guess we can go ahead and wrap it there. Best picks for this next upcoming week. I think really good pick is obviously BYU. If you're scared to play the money line, play the spread. Plus 10.5, I think is way too much. Obviously, they're like Texas Tech is one of those teams. They have the firepower. They can blow out a team. But BYU off of a bye, I think this BYU team is different than the BYU team of past, and they play to win instead of playing to lose like they did the very end of the season. So I think 10.5 is just way too much. Like I think BYU has a decent chance to win the whole game, but just for the average person, like 10.5 points, I think is too much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're both hoping for a win, but 10.5 seems like kind of disrespectful. So take that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they played well on the road. The sports markets as well as the AP poll continue to disrespect BYU. Literally, like if you put this in perspective, Utah was favored -4.5, even got up to -5.5 points at Lavelle Edwards Stadium in Provo against BYU. And BYU came out not only covering that, but they won the game. And if you watch that game, they won by more. Like technically they only won by a field goal, but if you watch the game,
last second touchdown.
Yeah, BYU was, at least at the end of the game, was in clear control of the game. So Utah scored a late touchdown in the fourth quarter to kind of make it a little bit more respectable, but BYU took that game over at the end.
Yeah, I think the only reason why the spread is so high just because it's a 9 o'clock game, or like say 11 o'clock game, and BYU typically doesn't play that early, so they might come out a little groggy. But yeah, in Bear we trust.
Yep. In Bear we trust, the right to bear arms. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for this week. We'll catch y'all again next week. And since I'm back in town, not on vacation and traveling and stuff, I will be updating the stream and getting some improvements and adding some stuff here or there. Probably posting a little bit more on our Instagram. So if you're not following our Instagram, go ahead and follow it at Boys Bet Ball. Subscribe to YouTube, give this stream a like, and give us some of your comments. What's your best bets for this week? And let us know things you want us to discuss for our next show. So until then, happy betting, stay safe, and hope your team wins this week.